Kia ora, everybody. This is Michael here, not Rob, not Val. This is Wairarapawatch, but I have to tell you that Val's not at all well this morning, and Rob's gone to the hospital to look after her, will help the staff there look after her. I don't think it's really serious, but anything that hits you like that is a bit disturbing and worrying for them. So I, in my rather inexpert way, will be Rob and Val this morning. So use your imaginations. Now, you may realise that this program's sponsor is Transit. Does one say Transit Wairarapa? I should say that we have Laura with us today from Transit. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? You do a good Rob and Val.
You think?
Yeah.
I can't do a Brahmi accent, though. It's one of the hard ones to do. But I'm not even going to try. So as I say, Transit is the sponsor of this program, and I know Rob and Val are very grateful, and so am I. So thank you very much.
No problem at all.
And I think round about once every month, we're going to have a person like yourself from Transit to come in and tell us a bit about what you do and what's on at the moment, and what might be interesting things for our listeners to latch on to. So, what can I ask you? Well, Rob and Val have left me notes, but who knows where they are? So what I want to say is, first of all, what is your role within Transit?
So my name's Laura Hutchinson, and I work in the Transit Tours team. So what we'll be talking about on the radio show is the Transit Tours, what we've got up and coming, things that we've maybe done, and hearing stories from some of our guides. Transit is a family-owned company. Actually, we're in 4th generation Snellgroves now, working in the office. Wairarapa company as well. And so it's a little bit of one of those old-school all-hands-on decks.
Well, certainly you've always been a big feature of our lives here in the Wairarapa, and we've hired one of your buses when we had a conference here, and I have to say the company gave us a really good deal. We're very grateful to them for that. You mentioned it's Transit Tours. Do you have a kind of typical kind of client for these kind of tours?
So we do. So Transit Tours works in we'll call it active senior market. Yep. It's people that like to get off the beaten track, like a bit of adventure. It's fully guided, all-inclusive travel. And you were asking before about my role. So my role is that I am one of the guides that goes out and about on the tours. But I also work in other departments of Transit as well.
Yes, that all hands on deck kind of thing. What do you have to know to be a good guide?
You have to like people.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically like travel and like people. There's no descript really for being a guide. It's a pretty cool job really at the end of the day. We get to explore New Zealand and even some international places. You get to meet amazing people and do amazing things along the way. And it's a pretty lucky crew actually.
Do you have to do a fair amount of research? Have you become a knowledgeable person about all the aspects of New Zealand life and the places you travel to?
Most definitely. You might be able to hear from my accent that I'm not an original New Zealander, but I have been here for 25 years and raised New Zealanders, so I figure I count now. Yeah. I've learned a lot, though, about New Zealand as I go. My past life came from the Pukaha Wildlife Centre, so I was pretty clued up on the New Zealand nature and New Zealand wildlife from my years there. But I'm certainly learning more about our different regions as we explore. And of course, when we go internationally, we like to source guides from the area because that's the best way to get the information is from the actual people.
So that means you don't score the international jobs?
Well, we do because I still need a guide.
Yeah. All right. Good. Yeah. So you say you're not from New Zealand, but you've been here so long that I'm finding your accent difficult to pin down. Where are you from?
Once upon a time, I lived in Texas. I don't tell many people that nowadays. Fair enough.
No. There are good people all over the world. I have travelled to Texas myself. I went to San Antonio, where you had chili with everything. I mean, usually you'd have chili with it. There was no way you could not have chili living in San Antonio.
Absolutely. I think that speaks for all of Texas.
Yeah. So, typically then, how often do you find yourself out on the road and going to different parts of the world and the country?
So I'm a relatively newbie to transit. I was only came into the picture in November. So despite the fact that I've only been there since November, I've hit the road twice with transit tours. So I've been lucky enough to do the West Coast, which was quite a big tour, and a part of New Zealand that I really loved exploring. And I've also been up the Wanganui River, which was awesome.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, really cultural, really amazing as far as scenery and that goes.
And what are your elder tourists, do they do any brown water rafting down the Wanganui River?
Absolutely. So we're all about having adventures. We're all about getting out there, maybe pushing the boundary a wee bit, but at the end of the day, it's your holiday. So, you decide what you'd like to participate in. But we certainly put some activities in our tours, I suppose, that you might not have thought that you would go and do. Things like jet boating, traversing a little bit of the Heafy track, going and finding the nesting sites of the white heron. Some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I'm thinking of somebody like me. I always had a very active youth, but now my knees have had it. I'm interested in adventure, but I can't walk the track anymore. But if you said paragliding or something, I'd go, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, well, we do try and cater the activity so there's a little bit of something for everyone. And you know best what you can and can't do at the end of the day. So if options is a good one, if you can't partake in, something that we're going to do, perhaps when we do the Heafy track, that's quite a nice one because you can do a little walk. If you're up to it, you can do a bigger walk, or you can just sit there and enjoy the beautiful scenery along the coast there.
So you said options. Is that a particular type of tour?
Not really, but we do sort of try and make sure that everybody has an option for our tours. Yeah, with all those activities, because they're pretty action-packed, we try and make sure that everyone can fit in somewhere. So
you got a whole lot of people on a tour, and they might have all chosen different options. Is that like herding cats, or?
Oh, it's not that there's a chosen option on the day. I guess a good example might be the day we visited at the start of the Heafy track. A few people just took a gentle walk through the Nikau Palms, which was just amazing. A few people made it up to the top, up to Charlie's Hut, which was in a spectacular view. And then other people just sat and played with the wicker down on the beach.
It's funny, even if you characterise yourself as a bit of an adventurous sort, sometimes you mention Nikau. We were up north of near the Mahia Peninsula and went into this Nikau forest, and it was just spellbinding, and I would have been happy to just lie on my back and look up at it. It's just fabulous, the things that you can do.
Absolutely, and just sort of immersing yourself in nature in any aspect is pretty fabulous.
Yeah. So you say that you kind of have to do various things in your role. What do you do when you're not being a tour guide?
So we do a lot of tour development. It's always good to keep it exciting and keep it interesting. We have lots of tours that are favourites that we do time and time again. A good example of that is our visit to Molesworth Station.
All right.
Yep, that's pretty fantastic. Always sells out. We do a mid-Christmas tour, which we try and change up every year to keep it kind of exciting, but that seems to be really popular. And of course, as tourist operations change or new things come onto the market, we're always trying to source that cool new adventure that you wouldn't have thought to do. So we do a lot of tour development when we're not on the road. Heading into winter, that's our downtime to get things really going. We're sort of working on a walking tour at the moment, so that'll have a little bit more walking in it for those that are keen to do that.
Yeah.
And we've just done an international tour to Canberra. We head to Great Barrier Island, the Chatham Islands. So it's just always keeping things new, keeping things fresh, and keeping on top of what's happening in those areas.
So if I think I know myself, say, but I come to you unsure of what would be a good thing for me to do, you're able to sit down with me and throw some options at me and come up with something tailored and perhaps to challenge me a bit, perhaps something I hadn't thought of. Do you nudge people a bit?
Absolutely. I know when I went on the Wanganui River, one of the things we did for the day was jet boat out and then walk to the bridge to nowhere. And there was probably a few people that had implied that they weren't going to make the walk, that they were quite happy with the jet boat ride, but probably would just sit out the walk. And I think in the end, just about everybody did that walk. Yeah. So at the end of the day, we sort of all had a great sense of achievement, even me, because I'd seen and explored a place I'd never been before.
Right. You've therefore got to be kind of up for everything. Have you ever found yourself in situations and thought, hadn't imagined doing this?
Well, I've only 2 tours in.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I'm sure there'll be plenty of those moments. But there actually already has been one. And the one was when we, on the west coast, when we went to visit the white heron nesting site. I'm a bit of a bird nerd from my affinity with pukaha. And I tell you what, that was an absolutely magical moment that never would have happened if I wouldn't have been on that tour. It was just absolutely fantastic. I think I could have stood there all day and just watched the birds.
Is it a bit remote? Did you have to do a bit of scrambling to get there?
We did. The river was actually up, so we had to again take a jet boat there.
Yeah.
We had to. The docks were flooded, so we had to traverse in and out of the boat over the top of the hull. So that one was a real adventure, but we got everybody there.
Great. So, I mean, you're getting perhaps people testing their boundaries a little bit, but of course you've got health and safety and to consider. Is that a difficult thing to manage, or have you got good systems in place, presumably?
Great systems in place, and it's not just us that has great systems in place, but we ensure all our providers do too. So the people that are taking us out in these jet boats and taking us on these walks to the bridge to nowhere, they've all got good systems in place too. So that's another important part of it, is ensuring that we're working with good people.
Right. So I've become interested now. What's my next step? I could just turn up to transit, phone you up, check you on the net. How do people get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So popping in the office is the best way to talk to us, and we love to see people face to face and meet people. Joining up to our travel club, which is free to do. Right. You can jump on our website, you can pop in and see us and join our travel club, and then that will mean that you'll start to receive our transcript. Now, the transcript is a great little publication that lists all our, not just our tours that we do, but we also do a full range of day tours, just, day outings. We recently took a group to Castle Point. We have a knack for nailing the weather, so we had an absolutely magical day at Castle Point, and lunch at the Whakataki Hotel, their famous seafood chowder. Yeah. So we, between the day tours, the transcript, you'll want to read that. That's, as soon as it goes out to people in the mail, we're a bit old school like that. We do still mail out our newsletter, but more and more we're relying on email as well. In fact, if you're on email, you get it first usually.
Yeah, good. So it sounds like signing up to that is a good thing. I know that it's always difficult when people say, here's our website on the radio. Nobody's got time to write it down. They can just enter Trans Tours into their search engine and they'll find you.
Absolutely. Transit Tours with a Z.
Yeah. Good.
Yes.
And they are on Queen Street. That's sort of just past Reap.
That's right, the transit headquarters. So the transit groups, the transit tours, the coach lines, we're all there. So you can just pop in and see us. The team is ready and waiting to sign you up and get you on the transcript and get you on a tour or a day trip.
I think, getting that newsletter is a good one.
Absolutely. In fact, we sent out a newsletter last week and the phones have been ringing hot.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Now, as you know, I'm neither Rob nor Val, and they're tremendously organised and I'm not. So if you feel there's anything I haven't asked you that you would like to communicate, now's your chance.
Absolutely. So as well as our day tours and our other tours, obviously Transit supplies a range of, coach solutions for you. So from charter services to concerts to those sorts of things. We do take groups to lots of the concerts over in Wellington, things that are happening over in Wellington. We've got a group going over to Cats, the musical, to West Side Story, to WOW, the Wearable Arts Awards, always a sellout, obviously. Other concerts that come up, and all of these you can be found, again, on our website, as you said, but also in our transcript, that amazing newsletter. We also have a Facebook page. If anyone's on the old social media, it's a great place to see what's coming up, what's next, tour-wise. And even it's always fun to see what our tours are doing, because we post up their pictures of recent things that are happening on tours, as they happen, really.
Yep. Well, look, this is an ongoing relationship, obviously, this program will have with you. Other people from your organisation will be popping in from time to time, right?
They will. I'll briefly introduce them a little bit of the team. I haven't got them all with me today, but I'll tell you a little bit about them. We've already talked about myself, but way before me, there's the amazing team of Kath and Ali. Kath has been at Transit for probably 15 plus years, so you'll have to ask Kath how many tours she's done, but I'd say she'll be clocking them up for sure. And Kath is actually on the road right now. She's down in the Deep South with one of our big tours, takes in Doubtful Sound, and really amazing one. There's also Ali. Now, Ali's 20 plus years. She said the last tour she was on that she was amazed because someone had commented that their first tour was 21 years ago and Ali was their guide. So she hadn't quite realised she'd been with us that long. I guess that's a good thing when you don't realise that you've been with the organisation for that long.
Because you must be having a good time.
Absolutely. Yep. And Ali quite often travels with their bit of a hubby and wife team with Les. Les has been involved with Transit in various aspects over the years. In fact, he used to be the sort of GM, I guess you might say, of the Transit group lines, and nowadays Les should probably be retired, but he won't. So he he enjoys just travelling with Ali, driving the bus and taking tours out, which is probably where it all began. So full circle.